us. So I would request all the students to kindly be on mute and keep your videos switched off during the session. You can, however, post your questions in the chat box, and post the university presentations. We'll definitely ask you to unmute and you can directly ask the questions to the universities. So, and on behalf of British Council, I would like to thank DPS Noida, Sovereign School, Vivekanand Mission School, Kolkata, for hosting this with us today. And I would also like to thank all the students, and also if the parents have joined us today. I would also like to welcome our three universities which are present with us today. We have Aparna Bose from Newcastle University. Hello Aparna, welcome. We have Donna Hens from University of Southampton. Hello Donna. And we have Dr. Vanessa Johnson from Glasgow School of Art. Hello Dr. Vanessa. So we'll just start quickly our today's session. Just to give you an idea about the flow, we'll start with an interactive session on applications, scholarships, graduate route, that is A to Z of UK undergraduate degree. This will be done as a jointly presented by three universities, and this will be followed by individual presentations from each school, from each university, sorry. And there would be an open house Q&A with all of you. So you can ask questions to the university about probably applications, courses, scholarships, health and safety, UCAS, or anything that comes to your mind. And again, I would request all the students to please be on mute when the universities are uh, presenting. And also another thing, we'll be posting the contact email ID of the delegates in the chat box during the event. This means you can directly email to the university delegates if any of your questions are remain unanswered during the session. So I think not wasting much of time, we'll quickly start the session. And I would request Megha from British Council to kindly share her screen. And over to you, Donna. Thank you, everyone. And hope we have a wonderful session together.
So good morning, everyone, and welcome to this British Council event. My name is Donna, and I work at the University of Southampton. We're between the three of us. We're going to just talk you through some of the processes and things to consider with undergraduate degrees. So, can I have the next slide, please? So, the United Kingdom is made up of 4 countries: England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Glasgow Art School, School of Art, is in Scotland, and the Newcastle and Southampton are in England. So next slide, please. Now, a UK undergraduate degree is generally 3 years. However, more in Scotland, it's 4 years. So it's a sort of more aligned to the American system. We have 3-year Bachelor of Engineering or Bachelor of Science or Bachelor of Arts, but also we have what is known as a 4-year integrated Masters. So that's something a lot of British students do now because it works out more intensive and it's quicker to get their Masters, and it's all in place together. Generally, with a 4-year programme, if there are some subjects like an engineering with different pathways, the programme will be the same for about 18 months, and then it branches off into the different pathways that you've chosen. So sometimes students may start wanting to do, for example, automotive, mechanical and engineering, but within that first year, they can then change to another course. And then we also have 4 years, what we call, it used to be called placement, sandwich, but it's now called placement. So you either work or you do a year of study abroad. I did a 4-year degree. I did a year study abroad. So the placement programs are quite popular. They give students are supported in their application, job application and placement application process. And normally a student placements are paid. For a lot of universities, they are paid placements. So students earn money, and also fees are generally reduced. I would imagine that Newcastle and Glasgow, if they have this, ours are reduced by 80%. So I would imagine that most universities have a similar sort of route. The placement program, is also good because you not only get experience of work, but you get experience of what you might want to do or what you might not want to do. An example would be, I had a student in marketing. He did his placement and he didn't really enjoy it. So he went and changed and found another one on his own initiative. And he's actually, when he graduated, he was working in that area in London. He was an international student. So sometimes it can be that impetus to make you think about what you want to do. And then we have 4 or 5 year programs with things like architecture, medicine, and some specialist courses. Next slide, please. Most universities will have something called a year in industry, we have a year in employment, which means that you can extend your degree. Generally, it's for the predominant amount of courses, but probably not something like dentistry or medicine or something like that. And that year in employment will be related as a result generally to your course. So it won't be just a year working, it will be a year with something that's industry related. And generally in the placement year, the university checks in, they get reports on you, on your how you're going, and they monitor your performance. And as I've already said, they're paid, and it is part of your study program. So when you get your degree, it says with placement year. So your employer knows that you've done a year abroad, a year in placement. Next slide. We can move slide, please. And one of the other things, before we get to the placement, I would always recommend that there's you consider part-time work. Either on campus, which is generally where students might start as a student ambassador or something like that, and then they may move on to doing something off campus. Also, in your time in an undergraduate, you'll have, I know that we do, from 2 weeks to 12-week short placements as well that you can do in the holidays. So don't always rush off in the holidays. Do apply for summer placements, even if it's 1 year, because they really do add to your skills. And employers like to see that students have done some part-time work, some placements, because it allows them to understand that you've got something to talk about in the interview, but also it is fun. You're earning money, you're working with a diverse set of people, you don't have huge amount of responsibility, and you can just enjoy that time, and just you will look back on it and think that that was a great job. Even when you're CEO, I can assure you, I've met CEOs who look back at the time they were doing 3 months potato peeling and tell me that was one of the best times of their lives. So normally 20 hours off. Most students, master students, probably 10 hours, but undergraduates 15. It depends on how you manage your time, and they're just excellent opportunity. Please do it. It takes you outside your comfort zone. You have to apply for jobs, and it's a great way to meet other people. And next slide, I think that's it. And when you plan to study, so if you're in your 10th grade, you start to think about where you go, because you start to think about your stream. But I would say take that 2 years to research your universities. Some key top tips: don't necessarily go to a university where your friends are going. Do your own research. I've spoken to students who said, why did you come to Southampton? And they said, oh, my friends were doing this course, so I came with them. I've seen students go to universities and they're going to do one course and their friend's going to do, say, pharmacology. And the university is ranked really, really high for pharmacy or pharmacology. And their course maybe they haven't even thought about whether the course is even good for them. They went with their friends. And I can assure you, you'll go with your friends, and within a few weeks, you won't be seeing your mates very often. So always think about you when you go, and don't go to a university just based on your football favourites, okay? Because I've seen that happen, and it just wastes your time. It wastes a slot in your UCAS, which my colleague from Newcastle will talk about in a minute. So year 12, you will submit your UCAS application. I would say do it in the autumn, sort of December time, before you start to hit your exams. And then in as you're in year 12, you usually receive your decisions in the, you know, the spring, and then you can make your final choice, and you always have an insurance, which is a backup. So always make 4 good choices, 1 backup, just in case everything goes wrong, and so that you don't lose your stop. Next slide. And so I'm going to hand over to Parna now. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Donna. So what is UCAS? If you're unaware, UCAS is the UK's centralized admission service. The full form is basically the University and Colleges Admission Service. So any and all undergraduate applications that you want to make to universities in the UK, whether it be Newcastle, Southampton, Glasgow, who are here today, or other universities, you will have to apply via UCAS. Now, it is quite different from how admissions work in India, simply because of the centralized nature of it. And we'll talk you through the system. It's important that you're aware of your choices and your responsibilities, a bit of which Donna touched upon in her slides. And hopefully this will make it a lot clearer. What this basically means is you only apply once. You don't have to make a separate application to every single university. You select your universities, you make one application, you pay the application fee once, and that's it. It's for all applications for undergraduate degree in the UK. Can we have the next slide, please? The first thing you need to do is check if your school is registered with UCAS. If you speak to your school counselors, they will be able to tell you whether you're registered, as well as if you have a buzzword that you can use when you're applying. This automatically helps UCAS link your application to your school, and then you can check with your school internally to see if they have any deadlines for you to complete your application, so that your teachers are able to add references to your application and ensure that you meet your deadlines. Can we have the next slide, please? It is very important that you don't leave things to the last minute. If you miss UCAS deadlines, unfortunately, there's not too much that we can do. So it's important that you keep on top of your emails, that you pay attention to the deadlines, and I'll talk about all of them in my coming slides. Can we have the next slide? Thank you. So the first thing is, where can you apply? You can apply to a maximum of 5 different university courses. You can, if you want, apply for the same course at 5 different universities. So if you want to study history, you can apply for history at 5 different universities. You could also say you've really liked one university, for example, you've really liked Southampton or Newcastle, you can apply for 5 courses at Southampton or 5 courses at Newcastle or at Glasgow in that sense. There are a few exceptions that you do need to keep in mind. If you're applying to Oxford or Cambridge, you can only apply to one course at their university. And if you're applying for medicine or dentistry, you only have 4 choices. So please keep that in mind. Medicine or dentistry, 4 choices, everything else, 5 choices. Can we have the next slide, please? Great. Deadlines are quite important. You will be able to find these on the UCAS website, but if you want to take a screenshot of this, please do feel free to. The first deadline that's almost here is the 15th of October deadline. Now, this is mainly for courses in medicine, veterinary sciences, and dentistry. These courses will not accept applications past 15th October at any university with UCAS. If you've missed the deadline, you'll have to try again the next year. Oxford and Cambridge also have the 15th October deadline. So if you're intending on applying there, you have to meet this deadline. For other undergraduate courses, we do recommend applications come in by 26th of January. That is the equal consideration deadline. International students such as yourself can still apply after this deadline all the way until the end of June, after which clearing will begin. And we'll talk about clearing later. However, please note that the major chunk of applications from students across the world are made before 26th of January, and universities will start issuing offers, and once enough number of offers have been made, they might run out of seats to offer you. So please do apply as early as possible to ensure that you have that chance in the university you want to go study in. Can we have the next slide, please? Thank you. So the key sections of the application form, the first is your details, your name, your date of birth, school, or if you're studying at a junior college, please input all of that, as well as the 5 courses you're applying to, or 4 if it's medicine, veterinary sciences, and dentistry. your qualifications that you have so far, whether they're GCSE, class 10, A levels, class 12, IB, predicted grades, please mention all of those. Any work experience that you have, and it can be from standard 9th onwards, whether it's part-time work, voluntary work, different sorts of things you might have done, whether you've taken part in model UN conferences, for example, you've organized them, you've worked with your student council. Please do flesh out your application in that sense. There is just one personal statement that you have to upload, and it's one personal statement that's common across your application for all the universities and all the courses you apply to. So it is quite a key component of your application. It has limited number of characters. You have to you have to write within 4,000 characters, and this supports your application to study at university. So be very careful about how you place it, because it's one personal statement for all courses at all universities. What is a personal statement for then? It's mainly when we're looking at applicants at universities in the UK, not everything is about your grades. We also want to understand what you've done so far, what sort of skills and knowledge you come to university with. And one part of it is your personal statement, and the other is the reference that your teachers will provide. It's a chance for you to articulate why you'd like to study a particular course at a specific university, or what skills and experience you have that you want to show us, which is not evident in a very small gray. Like, that's not telling us about who you are as an individual. If you go to the UCAS website, there is a lot more detailed information about how to write a personal statement and what's in it. A number of universities also organize these sessions. So if you're interested, do reach out. Can we have the next slide, please? A basic structure of the personal statement, we do recommend if you do, say, a paragraph on why you're interested in the subject area, information about extracurricular or independent activities you've taken part in, your strengths and other evidence that you're well prepared for an undergraduate degree in that subject area, and also what you hope to gain from the program. But you have to keep in mind that this is something that every single university will see. So ensure it's not too specific to a particular university or a particular course if you're applying to different courses. Can we have the next slide, please? Thank you. A few top tips. Do check your spelling and grammar. It is important. Be clear, concise, and be positive. And rewrite your personal statement, ask your peers, parents, teachers to review it, use the advice that's there for you. There's a lot of it on the UCAS website, on specific university website, and do use the full text allowance, the 4,000 characters that you have. You don't need to write a very short one. We want you to use the space that you've been given. Can we have the next slide, please? Great. So you will be able to track your UCAS application once you've made it on UCAS Track. So you'll be able to see the outcome of your application. Once all universities have responded, you will be able to reply with your decision. University responses are of three kinds. We may give you an unconditional offer and a conditional offer, or unfortunately you might be unsuccessful in your application. Non-conditional offer is where you have the grades and you've got a place as long as you clear any outstanding examinations that you might have left. A conditional offer is the one that is most common and what most of you will probably receive. It's you have a place at the university provided you meet the grade requirements of the course. For example, you're applying for medicine and your course asks for an AAA or an 85%. You might receive a conditional offer on the basis of the grades you've already submitted, which is your standard 10th grades and your predicted grades. And we might be able to make you a conditional offer saying that if you get AAA or 85% in your 12th, we will be able to make you an unconditional offer. Unsuccessful, unfortunately, you have not been offered a place at the university. Can we have the next slide, please? When you reply to your university responses, you have to make one firm choice and one insurance choice. All the other choices would need to be declined. Your firm choice is your first choice university. This is where you will go if you get the required grades. Your insurance choice is your backup university. It's generally recommended that you pick a university with lower grade requirements than your firm choice, because if you don't meet your firm choice requirements, then you will get a place at your insurance choice university. It's when you're choosing how to put in your firm in insurance, it is important to take a very realistic look at your academic grades and see if it's possible for you to meet the requirements. If you don't have the grade requirements for, say, one particular university, there will be other universities in the UK that might be more than happy to accept you with the grades that you have. So do keep that in mind. And this is also something that is important when Donna was talking about don't choose because of football, don't choose because of friends. You have very limited choices. You have at the end to pick two, one firm, one insurance, and it is a pretty big decision to make. Can we have the next slide, please? Yes, perfect. The deadline for accepting offers, you must accept your offer depending on when the last decision from the universities arrives to you. So if you've applied to 5 universities and you've got the first decision in a few weeks' time and then the last decision by a month's end, for example, if your last decision is by the 19th of May, you have to reply by the 9th of June. If you receive your last decision by the 14th of July, you have to reply to your offer by the 21st of July. Please do check UCAS track to see what the deadline is for you personally. Can we have the next slide, please? As soon as you've received your results, please update them on UCAS. You can use UCAS track to check if you got in to your firm or insurance choice university. If you've gotten in, congratulations. There are a few other things that can also take place at this point. If you've used all 5 choices and you're not holding any offers, you can add another choice using extra. This option will open on the 25th of Feb next year. If you missed the grades for your firm and insurance, you can apply to another university via clearing. The UCAS website lists all the courses with available places, so you can get in touch directly with the university and see if they might be happy to offer you a place with the grades that you have in your standard 12th. If you exceed the grades of your firm choice, you can also look for an alternative option. Alternative choice, this is optional, so this might be you've done better than you thought you would, and you've got another university that has a higher requirement that you now meet. You can speak with them and see if they'd be happy to accept you in adjustment. Can we have the next slide, please? A few important links for applying to university, types of offers that you will get, how you reply to your offers, and application deadlines. I would highly recommend going through the UCAS website for more information around this. It's quite detailed. There are a number of videos and blog posts and articles that explain this process in detail. Can we have the next slide, please? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Aparna. I think that's over to me. My name is Vanessa Johnson. I work at the Glasgow School of Art, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of information about scholarships. I know that a lot of you are very interested in how you might fund coming to the UK to study. I think one of the things that you need to bear in mind is that there are quite a number of different places where you might find a scholarship. And when you're looking to research study destinations, universities particularly, it's quite important to have a look at the same time at the funding that they might offer. So you may find quite a lot of universities will have quite an extensive list of scholarship offers. They'll have links and resources on how you can find funding. The same applies to the British Council, for example, here as well. And it's worth spending a little bit of time looking at what's available, looking at what you're eligible for, trying to work out how you might make an application. There's kind of 2 types of scholarship that's offered. One is a merit-based scholarship, which is all about your academic profile and your extracurricular activities, so how good you are as a student. And the other one is about a need-based scholarship, which is basically predicated on the fact that you actually can't afford to pay for it yourself. So it will look at your financial information. So those two types of scholarships are the two main things that you'll be able to apply for or be awarded. And where the funding comes from, it might come from the university, it might come from a private corporation, or it might come from a national government. That might be an Indian government sponsored scheme, it might be a UK-wide government sponsored scheme, it might be a Scottish government scheme, for example, or it might be something that's administered through a private corporation. Quite a lot of merit scholarships that are awarded by universities, you may well get awarded those at the point of application. So you make your application to Newcastle, for example, to study business administration. Your grades are fantastic, you really meet their profile. They will write to accept you and say, okay, we're going to give you an unconditional or a conditional offer, and also we'll be able to give you a scholarship of £4,000 towards the tuition fees, for example. Or in exceptional cases, you might get a scholarship which covers the whole of those tuition fees. There are other types of scholarships that you will need to then make a separate application outside of your application to study. Those will always include those need-based scholarships, because the UCAS form doesn't have any information about your financial needs on there. But there'll also be linked to merit. So in my institution, for example, we normally require students to get accepted onto the program first and then make the scholarship application. We have a deadline for scholarship applications, which is towards the end of May. So that's another thing that you need to check, that you are going to be able to meet deadlines for any applications for scholarships that you will want to make. And you'll also need to meet those eligibility requirements. So if that eligibility is being accepted, that means that you will need to have applied for the degree programme quite a bit before that, so that you have that offer of a place before you can make that scholarship application. One thing I will say is that getting a full scholarship is not very likely within the UK. There are some that will cover the whole of the tuition fees. It's much more likely that you would get something like £3,000, £4,000, £5,000 off the tuition fees. There's probably not going to be a very large number of scholarships which will also give you funds for living expenses. So you are going to incur some cost regardless of the amount of tuition scholarship that you are lucky enough to get awarded. Could we go on to the next slide, please? So what I said, like, you know, this is somebody giving you money, free money. You are going to have to do some work towards getting it. And part of that is researching where you can apply. The university website, I think, is a great start. There'll be links on there. The British Council website is another start. There are government sites as well, which will list what scholarships they have available and the application process. And some private corporations might want you to apply directly to them for funding for a particular type of program, or they might give money to a university and you apply to the university and the university awards you their money. So it depends on how they've set that up, and they may have different eligibility requirements. They may only be giving money for students to study a particular subject, for example. So you need to do all that research and you need to check that out. And obviously, if you're going to be going for a merit scholarship, one of the best ways that you can prepare is to do well at school and get the grades that will get you that merit scholarship. Don't think also that once you start in the UK, that's the end of you actually having any hope of anybody ever giving you any money. We have quite a lot of students that apply to companies for funds to buy materials, for example, for degree shows. If they're working with silver, for example, they might apply to somebody to help buy some of that, or they may apply, if they're doing fashion, to get funding for fabric, etc. So I think the key messages is that plan early, do your research, make sure that you meet the applications, and make sure that you're eligible for what you can apply for. Next slide, please. We have the next. Okay, so I'm going to pass back over to Donna now.
Right. So I'm going to talk about the graduate immigration route. Now, you may think that this is 3-4 years in the future, and at this stage in your life, you're thinking, I'm just trying to think about where I want to go, either in the UK, India, or wherever, and it seems like a long time. But I can tell you, I was talking this last week with an Indian student who's just approaching his final year of his 4-year bachelor in accounting and finance, and he just finished his placement year, and he was saying, we were just saying that I remember meeting him in Kolkata. I remember when he first arrived with his 6 suitcases. He has got a record for that, and he, next year his course finishes, and so what does he do then? Now he's going to be availing the graduate immigration route, because it's open to students that have complete their undergraduate degree, allowing or higher, but we're talking about undergraduate degrees because of you being in your 10th to 12th grades. And what it allows you to do is to stay in the UK and work for 2 years in any specialisation. Now, hopefully you would get a job you would find work within your area. But what was there previously was you had students had a maximum of 4 to 6 months to find work. And it was quite a challenge. So having that 2 years allows a student to utilise all the skills, get some international work experience, and it's a very good opportunity for a student to really get some really good skills, whether they that will serve you well in your career. Now you must complete your course, and you must have must be able to show funding to support you. Next slide. But this is a really big opportunity. And so you apply, as I said, once you've finished your course, and you must be in the UK and you must have a valid visa. So once you graduate, you can then you generally would then apply. So it wouldn't incur another fee for visa and health surcharge costs. But once you have it, you don't need a sponsor to apply, so you don't need to source a job first. And it's completely online, and you get an e-visa. So it's a much simplified process. And then that allows you to do 1 year, 2 years of work, and then hopefully maybe get sponsored in the next stage of your career. So the next slide. If we could move on to the next slide, please. And so we've talked a little bit about work and placements, but so think about the work experience that you can get while you study. So think about, as I've talked about, we talked about part-time work, placements, both placement years in industry or employment, and also looking at those short placements in the short internships in the summer, or graduate sort of opportunities that you get within your faculty. So within your faculty, you will get opportunities to take part in competitions, small internships with companies, work on little projects. Do take up those opportunities, because they're really good networking opportunities, but also you get to see what other companies and what other organisations are doing. Again, the other aspect is fun. And let's face it, you don't want to be miserable at university. And so doing things like this will, they are fun. And I think, using the only thing that I haven't mentioned, we haven't really spoken about, is a career centre. Every university has career centre, and they are a hub for students to get that first bit of knowledge for application forms, how to do CVs. They will do mock interviews, mock phone interviews, and face-to-face. They will help you do video interviews, and help really support you on the next stage. They also can registering will get you access to a large database of placements, part-time jobs, full-time jobs, and graduate jobs. So worth going to the Careers Centre straight away. Next slide, please. And what are the benefits? I mean, it benefits the UK because we get skilled, keen and intelligent international students who can add to our economy. It gives you great opportunity to find out a little bit more about yourself, as I said, what you'd like to do, what you don't want to do, and also you get a bit more flexibility with your regard to the where you choose to work, because you're not restricted by how much you earn. And what it also does is it allows other employers in the UK to sponsor, to actually employ students who they possibly wouldn't have had access to. So employ graduates with skills that they wouldn't maybe have been able to avail. And obviously that allows you to get more chances to get a sponsored job afterwards. And I think that it does give you good opportunities to really get some life-changing career investment. And the next slide, I think that's the last one. So thank you. And I think we have questions now. So thank you for listening.
I would like to thank all the delegates for taking us through the complete journey for applying to UK universities, UCAS, scholarships, and insight on graduate immigration route. And now we'll request the students, either they can post their questions in the chat box or they can just raise their hand to ask the questions. So we welcome the platform for ask students to ask the questions now. Anything that comes to your mind, no question is good or bad. So anything that comes to your mind, you can just raise your hand, or even you can post your questions in the chat box. Okay, there is a question from Kushal Sharma. He's asking, is the IELTS compulsory for applying in the UK universities? So Donna, if you wish to take that question, and we'll come to Vanessa and Aparna after that.
So IELTS is not compulsory. If you have different universities have different entry points, but if you have 70% or more in your 12th or 10th standard, then a university will accept that for an undergraduate course. If you studied the keyboards, maybe if you haven't studied a keyboard, then it may be requested, but generally it's 70-75%.
Aparna, for Newcastle, it's IELTS compulsory for for applying in UK universities?
Not exactly. It's quite similar to what Donna said. It does depend on the board you're applying for. If it's CBSE IELTS, if you've got 75% in English, we recognize that as equivalent. For other state boards, we might need some sort of English language evidence. It need not be IELTS. It can be TOEFL. It can be Pearson. List of tests are also fine. And I think that's true for most other UK universities as well. It's not just IELTS.
Okay. Vanessa, what about Glasgow School of Art?
Yes, that's the same. I mean, we obviously would prefer students to have the UKVI IELTS test if they've been able to take it and they have the right level, but we will also look at what else they've taken. So higher level English and IB, for example, the 12th grades that they've got, as long as it's been within the last couple of years. So we have a kind of validity on the language level that you've got, and we might undertake some sort of verification interview with students if they're not providing what's known as a secure English language test. But they don't need to have that at the point of application. We should mention you can take the IELTS test anytime after you apply. It would just come out as one of the conditions of your acceptance. So you don't need to take it before you submit the UCAS application.
Thanks, Vanessa. I think we have few younger students also joining with us from grade 9. So yes, you can start planning, but it's too younger age to, apply for the university. So that's the thing. And we have few questions on, students want to ask about commerce as a course and what are the options available for commerce students. would request if these questions we'll answer post our individual presentation, wherein all the universities will take you through the kind of courses they offer in their universities, what kind of specializations are there. So I think there are a lot of questions which are coming for the course specific. So I think immediately we'll start with our presentations and would request students just to hold on to their questions, and post the individual presentations, we'll move to the questions now. So I think very quickly, Aparna, I would request if you can share the screen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, yes, Aparna. Just put it in PPT mode. That's it.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
So we will look a bit at where Newcastle is, who we are as a university, the city, faculties, and hopefully answer the question around courses that you were asking, entry requirements, fees, scholarships, accommodation, careers, student experience. It is quite a lot to cover. So I know I have 10 minutes. Hopefully we'll be able to get through it all. Uh, Without much further ado, Newcastle is in the northeast of England. We're along the border of England and Scotland, about 55 minutes from London by flight, an hour and a half from Paris, or 8 hours from Dubai if you're flying from there. Newcastle does have an international airport, so it's quite convenient to travel here. And we've got very good links to the rest of the country, whether by train or by road. So it's quite convenient place to be. It's along the coast, so we've got the northeast. It's a beautiful area of the country for you to explore if you want. We have students at our university from over 120 different nationalities, more than 5,000 international students each year, and more than 25% of our staff are from outside the UK. We've got 3 campuses, one in Newcastle, one in Malaysia, and one in Singapore. Why choose Newcastle? A number of reasons. We do rank quite highly in the QS World Rankings. We're top 20 in the world for sustainable cities and communities. We're very well known for our research strengths. We are a global research power. We have 5 QS stars for student employability, as well as 5 QS stars for excellence. We're globally connected with almost 250,000 worldwide alumni, and we are a founding member of the Russell Group. We do have very strong links with multinational businesses such as Siemens, PwC, FDM, Enterprise, IBM, and so on. One of the top 20 most targeted universities by the UK Times 100 employers. We've also been awarded 5 QS stars for teaching, and we're in the top 25 in Europe for teaching excellence. Can we have the next slide, please? Oops, sorry, I forgot I'm sharing the presentation. In terms of rankings, we do have 39 subjects in the top 20, of which 24 are in the top 5. A few of our very highly ranked subjects are the ones listed here. As you can see, it covers a whole range, whether earth and marine science, electrical electronic engineering, art and design, marketing, economics, environmental science, biology, psychology, pharmacy, media communication. I did my master's from Newcastle in communication, so I can attest to the standard of the course, at least there. A number of courses that you can look at. As a city, we are one of the most affordable student cities in the UK, 4th best student city according to the What Uni Student Awards, and it's one of the safest and friendliest cities in the UK. You will be able to get student discounts on your student card all over the city as well as the country. And this is true for any university that you go to in the UK. Your student ID is very good for getting you discounted rates at historical sites, at movie theaters, entry into places, and so on. Interestingly, Newcastle is one of the driest cities in the UK. Might not mean much to us in India, where we have a very set season for monsoon. But if you're in a city where it's raining for about 200 days out of a year, matters quite a lot. There's lots of things to do in and around the city, whether it's explore beaches, the nature, historical architecture, or just have fun otherwise. At our university, we have 3 faculties: humanities, social sciences, science, agriculture, engineering, and our medical school. Within humanities and social sciences, we offer a number of different courses from law, law, modern languages, geography, sociology, political science, language, communication, architecture. Our business school is triple accredited, and our law school is also accredited by Bar Council of India. So if you would like to study law at Newcastle, your degree is recognized should you want to practice in India. Our business school holds the Triple Crown, which is accredited by an American accreditation body, a European accreditation body, as well as the Association of MBAs. There's only about 1% business schools in the world that hold this triple accreditation. So our students graduate with a degree that's then recognized in most parts of the world. Within our Faculty of Medical Sciences, psychology is taught in our Faculty of Medical Sciences. So it's a BSc Psychology and an MSc Psychology, not as an arts subject. And that's quite interesting because you're looking at not the arts part of it. So for entry requirements, you need to have studied a science in your standard 12th to be eligible to apply for our psychology program. We're second in the UK for anatomy and physiology. And Royal Victoria Infirmary, which is the big NHS hospital in Newcastle, is a teaching hospital, and it's one of the largest in the northeast of England. And our students, for every year of their degree program within the Faculty of Medical Sciences, are involved with what's happening there and have the opportunity to shadow and understand how a hospital actually works and get the benefits of the experience. Within science, agriculture, engineering, of course, the most popular nowadays is School of Computing, where we offer a number of different courses. Our university is the National Innovation Center for Data Science, for energy systems integration, as well as for subsea and offshore engineering. What this means is the UK government recognizes our research in these areas, and we are research hubs. And these hubs are a collaborative space for university academics, for businesses, for research groups and students to come together and carry out some fantastic and world-leading research. You can study a number of courses within our university, and if you go on our website, you can do a course search and read through the exact details, entry requirements, and so on. Each course will have a slightly different requirement. For undergraduate courses, we typically require an ABB at A level, 32 points in IB, 75 to 80% from CBSE, ISE, recognized state boards, and the NIOS. So we do recognize all Indian state boards that are recognized by our Ministry of Education. As I mentioned earlier, for English language, if it's 75% in English from CBSE or ISE in 12th, that is enough evidence for us. However, should you be from another board, we can look at a number of different tests. You would need to provide, along with your application, references, your personal statement, and if required, any entrance exam scores. If it's for a medicine program, for example, you might need the UCAT, and predicted grades when you're making your application. Tuition fees at our university would range from £18,600 to about £23,400 per year. You can find the exact fees for individual courses on the specific course entry online. We normally do offer a number of scholarships for our students. These are the schemes from the 2021 intake. Our scholarships for 22 have not yet been announced. They will be announced in a few months' time. We often have a partial scholarship, which is our Vice Chancellor's International Scholarship for about £4,000. It does not have a deadline, does not require an application. When you apply to the university, we assess every application to see if it meets the requirements. If it does, you get the scholarship for each year of your degree program. The Vice Chancellor's Excellence Scholarship is an extremely prestigious scholarship with a value of 50% or 100% of your course fee. This does require a separate application to be made after you've received an offer, and it does have a deadline. These are 50%, 100% scholarships. Should you be lucky enough to be awarded this, it would be there for each year of your degree program. As I mentioned earlier, Newcastle is one of the most affordable student cities. I can attest to that personally. Spent a year and a half as a student, and I would say the cost we officially say is much higher than what students do tend to spend. If you're looking at UK visa regulations, UK VI regulations, you would need to ensure you have from about £9,500 to £10,500 for 9 months of study. This is what you need to show for your visa application. But in reality, in Newcastle, students tend to spend from about £700 to £800 per month. A breakup of the costs is given here, and a number of these will not be there for students, especially travel. If they're staying in university accommodation, it's walking distance. Food cost depends on whether you eat out too often or you're cooking at home. Social activities depends on person to person. TV licenses with Netflix, Amazon Prime, that's another cost that most students don't bother paying because they have no need for it. So at the end of it, lifestyle choices make quite an impact, but from about £700 is what students tend to spend per month. Our accommodation, most of them are within a 10-minute walk from campus. We've got a city center campus, as you can see from the image at the bottom left. It's quite compact, the city of Newcastle, and our campus is in the center, so it's a very happening place for our students. It's very easy to walk from accommodation to the city center to do your shopping, to classes. It's very convenient. In terms of accommodation, students have quite a few choices. They can choose catered or self-catered, ensuite or shared bathroom facilities, mixed gender, single gendered halls. We also have separate accommodation for couples, families, and postgraduates. So for undergraduate students, your accommodation will be filled with students your age, so you don't have to worry too much about that. The pictures here are of our own accommodation. Please don't think they're stock images. I have been asked that just last week, so I feel like I must make that quite clear. In terms of what the rent is like, it's from about £400 to £650 per month. This includes all utilities, heating, electricity, water, Wi-Fi. The only cost students would bear if they're staying in self-catered is their food cost, and that's mainly about it. We also have a dedicated team within our accommodation service called Res Life, which basically looks to make university accommodation, living there, feel more like home. So they'll organize fun events, activities, movie nights, culture club. They do this thing for Diwali, they'll do something for Holi, for Christmas, for Easter. So just that people are able to get together and experience different cultures from those who they share a home and their classes with. We do have an award-winning career service. It is very well regarded amongst companies in the UK. You're eligible to make use of our career service facilities for up to 3 years after graduation. Career service assists in a number of ways. It's not just a job agency, but it basically prepares you for your career, whether it's from career planning, advice, information on different kinds of experience and roles you can get, help you with your CV or job application checks, and carry out interviews in practice, coach you for them, offer internships, placement years, provide skill development workshops. We also invite employers onto campus multiple times throughout a year for you to interact, network with them, and build those relationships. These can be as separate employer events or as part of recruitment fairs. We also have a dedicated support available for students who want to start up their own business or enterprise. So there is, we do recommend students come into career service to speak with them as soon as they arrive on campus, maybe day one after you've settled in, just to get an idea of the support that's there, because it's important, as both Donna and Vanessa have said before, that you start planning, that you make the most of the opportunities that are there. We do have a job search portal on our career service website where you can apply for jobs both within the university and outside. They can be part-time, volunteering, shadowing, internship opportunities, or even full-time jobs that you can do once you've graduated. Indian graduates in the UK at our university have gone on to work for some very well-known companies such as Accenture, Siemens, Equivor, and also the NHS. And we do have quite high hopes from our current set of graduates as well. For student experience, Newcastle has a 95.6% satisfaction score from our international students. 1 in 6 in Newcastle is a student. So it's a very student-friendly city. And you see, as I said earlier, students from all over the world. So it's a very vibrant community that is there. Our students' union, also award-winning, has more than 250 clubs and societies, more than 65 sports clubs that you can join. Whether you're a national, international level sports player, or you've never heard of the sport before, there is something for you to get involved with. We do have a 97.4 satisfaction score for our students' union. Our sports center has recently been refurbished for performance, intramural sport, fitness suite, exercise classes, and also to support our sport and exercise science practical classes at the university. And that's me. I hope I've not overshot by too long. Please do stay in touch with us. You can drop us an email, find us on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, or Twitter. And I think we'll do questions towards the very end, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, Aparna, but we have lot of questions pouring in. This course specific we'll definitely take after 3 presentations. But there are some generic questions. Like I took one from Ketan Raj, Donna, and Vanessa. If you could also come online, they have asked a very good question, and thanks Donna for answering that. They have asked, can undergraduates work with professors for research programs, specifically for undergrads? Aparna, if you would like to take it first.
It is unusual, but it's not uncommon. So it is possible. You just have to be an exceptional student. It has to be something, a research that your professor is carrying out, and they're happy to offer you a place. It normally happens with second year, third year students towards the end of their degree program when they've got the skills required to support them. However, even when you're working part-time at the university, there are a number of opportunities to support in odd jobs that might be related to research, that might be related to administration at the university, or as was mentioned earlier, a student ambassador. So there are different number of roles that you can get involved with. But the kind of research that you're talking about is normally towards the end of your undergraduate program.
Vanessa, if you would like to add to it.
Yes, just to say that it's probably more likely that students would get involved with exhibitions or something that's going on, or a project that that staff might be doing. Those are likely to be kind of short-term project-based bits of work rather than an ongoing bit of employment. But that's kind of because of the type of programs that we have.
Donna, do you have answered in the chat box? You would like to add to it for University of Southampton?
Yeah, I would agree that students, it's less likely for undergrads. However, I've had, like psychology, some of our psychology students, if they want to work on an internship project, they get that opportunity in the first year. I've had students, Indian students, that got really interested in space and have set up clubs and societies with professors and actually attended conferences in their second year. So it does happen, but generally you have to be quite proactive.
Thanks, Donna. Also, another question from Ketan Raj. Ishita, will come to you. I can see your hand is raised. Just a second, we'll come to your question. So there is another question from Ketan, which is quite interesting, that he wants to ask about the classes. They are more lecture-based or discussion-based or activity-based. So, Donna, though you have answered, you would like to add to it?
Just to say, there really are a mixture. You will do lab work, you will do work on, in the studio, you will do work in all different areas, but you would work maybe with a few students. But I think Vanessa can answer it as well, Dr. Vanessa.
I think it would depend quite a lot on the type of program of study you do. I mean, if you're going to study something like history, it's likely to be that there's a lot of lectures and and seminars. If you're studying something like art and design, you probably will have a few lectures for a theory part of the program, but the rest of it is going to be hands-on interactive work, or work where you're making. But we'll cover that partly in my presentation as well, I think.
Aparna, quickly, if you want to add to it.
Yes, absolutely. It is for Newcastle, it's very much like both Donna and Vanessa have said. It depends on the program. If you go on any individual course page and you go to the bit where it's talking about the modules, it will tell you exactly how your hours will be split during the work week. So which module has more of a teaching, how the assessment will be, which is more classroom based, more discussion based. So normally, and I think this would be true for Vanessa and Donna as well, there'll be lectures, there'll be seminars, there'll be some sort of lab work depending on the course. There would be group studies that you would need to undertake, projects that you look at, and it will change year on year. So in your first year, it might be more of a teaching led year where you're just introduced to the topics, and by the time you reach your third year, it's a lot more independent study because you're expected to explore what you're studying in more depth, work on your dissertation, and so on.
Thanks, Aparna. There are so many questions in the chat box about graduate immigration route, that if you don't have a job after graduation, then how long they can stay without a job in the UK. Can you throw some light on this? Or probably I would advise them to visit the www.gov.uk. I'll be posting it. But any comments from your side for this question? Either of you, Vanessa, Donna?
I mean, that's the kind of benefit of the graduate immigration route, is that if they've been granted the visa, they have that 2 years to find work. I mean, clearly you're not going to be unemployed for 2 years, because you will have to support yourself financially. But you don't have a kind of restriction of 2 or 3 months to find a sponsor and get that paperwork done, get the job offer, get the sponsorship through, get the visa through that you have at the moment. So you don't need the employer to request permission to employ you. You can apply for a job. If you get accepted, you can take up that employment opportunity straight away. But you have that 2 years period to do that in.
Okay, I think we are running short of time, so we'll Ishita, if you can quickly ask your question, and then we'll move to the next presentation, and post that
Yes,
we'll
ma'am.
try.
Actually,
Yeah.
yes. Is there any facilities for 16 and 17 years students in the field of science? Or we need to wait for another year for class 12?
Um, if you don't finish your 12th grade, so if you wanted to start on your 11th, then you would need to do a foundation course. I'm pretty sure that Newcastle has its own foundation course. We have one with on campus, but if you wanted to go to your 12th, you could go directly onto an undergraduate degree if you achieve the academic entry requirements.
Thanks, Donna. We have another person. I can't see the name with so many participants. I think we'll come to the questions at a later stage. Donna, probably we can start with your presentation, and surely students hold on to your questions. We'll definitely come post this presentation. Donna, over to you.
Sorry, just taking a little while. So my name's Donna Haynes, as we've already said. I work at the University of Southampton. So if Newcastle is at the top of the UK, then Southampton is at the bottom. So we're about 6.5 hours from Newcastle. Now, we are a port city. We have and we're very much of a maritime. We're probably a very big international port, and we're known as the cruise capital of England, although the pandemic has damped that. Quite an affordable city. We're an hour and 20 minutes from London. What I like about Southampton is its location. The weather is normally a little bit drier and warmer, but we are close 2 hours, just over 2 hours to Cardiff, 3.5 hours to Manchester, just over 2 hours to Birmingham, and obviously London, Portsmouth, Brighton, Oxford, very close to us. And we also, like Newcastle and Glasgow, we have our own regional airport, although it's smaller than, I would say, Glasgow. Glasgow is going to be a much bigger airport. So we do local flights to the EU cities and around the UK. So why would you choose Southampton? Well, it's a good Russell Group university, ranked 77th in the world, and we're top in the top 100 in the world for a number of subjects, including electrical. We're a top 15 UK university, and we do well in research as well. So we have 7 campuses, one in Malaysia where we teach engineering, and students generally do 2 years there and 2 years in the UK, or 1 year in the UK. We've also recently started business courses out of our Malaysia campus. But as I said, we're a maritime city, so we have the National Oceanographic Centre, which is located where the Titanic sailed. It has one of the best views over the Solent, but we teach things like oceanography, marine biology, and other subjects at our Oceanographic Centre. And then we have we have a Winchester School of Arts, which is a bespoke art school, which is a very well known, and we have generally programs like fashion design, fashion marketing, textile graphics, and fine arts, and games and art design. So that we have a range of subjects there. And then we do medicine, so we have a medical, the University Hospital Trust, and our main campus is the Highfield campus, where we teach a lot of our subjects. So we have 350 sub courses, or different areas, and what we don't teach though is architecture, dentistry, veterinary science, hospitality, journalism, those sorts of subjects. But we do teach things, all the engineering, electrical, biomedical, acoustical, ship science, civil, those sorts of subjects as well. And then we have our environmental and life sciences, where we teach things like psychology, biology, biochem, and biomed. And obviously our social sciences, we also have in there, we have our business school. And obviously our arts and humanities. So what are our entry requirements? We have generally between 75, some of our art programs are around 70, just below 75, but to 85 in the 12th. We also require normally 70% in English to avoid having to do IELTS. And when I talk to students, what they say is different between the UK and Indian education is that you not only learn the theory, you actually have to understand it. So if you don't understand the theory and how it goes into practice, then you can't mug. So what we teach is this is the theory, you go away, you practice it. And so that means it's very much more hands-on, and which really gives you a deeper understanding into the course that you're studying. We've already talked about a year in industry or year in employment. This is something you can add to your course if you choose not to do a course with a placement year, and it's open to most courses. Probably medicine, it wouldn't be open to, a nursing, something like that. But those are, your course fees are reduced by 80%. It gives you an excellent opportunity to study, to work in an area within your field, and also explore yourself as a student in a safe environment. We also, I've already said, we do undergraduate foundation programs, which is the course that you do in between maybe your 11th or 10th and your 12th. It's for students, maybe you've done a different stream than you need for your course, or maybe you didn't achieve the marks that you wanted. This allows you to just boost your skills and get onto the degree that you actually, and university that you wanted to go to. We've got, the university has a number of different career centres, so like the electronics and computer science has a careers hub. The business school has a small, careers place, but we have a main career centre which is very active and has been active throughout COVID. These are our fees. So they're and our scholarships, we currently have a 3,000 international merit scholarship, which gives you a is automatic. So when you apply, normally when you accept the offer and you achieve your grades, then it will be automatically deducting your fees. The University of Southampton, we have some great facilities, but like a lot of universities, most universities have great facilities, but we have things like wind tunnels, supercomputers, great art studios. We have a towing tank, lots of, we have a Bloomberg suite, so lots of different areas of that you can get involved in our research, and also that you can get to use. I spoke to a student recently who was putting the wings on a Formula One Red Bull car, and he was just so excited because he loves Formula One. Also, facilities are good in the fact that we have 9 gyms across the university, good Wi-Fi, and we really try to look after students. We have all of our international students are guaranteed accommodation. Just a little update on COVID. Currently our teaching is a hybrid model, face-to-face mostly, but large lectures where social distancing might be a problematic are still going online at the moment. And as the situation eases, they will then move back to face-to-face. However, the online lectures, we always did them. They were always recorded, so students have access to them, and you tend to watch a lecture again anyway. But we have been face-to-face, and students have had access to labs for some time. One of the things that we do recommend students do is register with a health centre, which can be done online when they arrive in the UK. If you haven't had your vaccinations, you will be offered them, and to sign up for the weekly saliva tests that the university offer free to students. And I'm sure that Glasgow and also Newcastle will have similar, processes in place. Our accommodation is varied. We have accommodation within 10 minutes of the university, but we also have it a little bit further out because we have campuses around the city. But students, this is the first year we've been full for some time. So we normally have capacity, but we also there's a lot of private student accommodation as well. And so we don't tend to suffer with being not insufficient accommodation. I believe in Newcastle and Glasgow are the same. The cost of living is fairly reasonable, 800 to 1,000 a month for all sorts of activities, but it does depend on how much you shop, how much you go out, how much you eat out, as my colleagues have said. This is some pictures of our accommodation. Mayflower is very popular with Indian students. It's in the city centre, but we also have Glen Eyre, which is also popular, and Wessex Lane. Southampton as a city and the region, it's one of the great things that I love about the region is that we have beaches close by. We have a national parks in the South Downs and the New Forest, and alongside football and lots of different types of sports. The university has over 300 clubs and societies. So we tend to find something that students would like or would like to try. So I'm going to end there. These are our contacts, but the British Council will be providing you with that in any case, without my contacts anyway. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Donna. It was a wonderful presentation. Quickly move. Vanessa, if we'll just take one question because the hand has been raised from quite long. So, Ayan, if you can just unmute yourself and you can ask your question.
Good afternoon, ma'am. My question is, students opting for studying a postgraduate in Master of Business Administration, will they be getting internships in their first and second years?
If you said masters, would that be the after the undergrad, is that what you're saying?
Yes, in the postgraduate program for business administration.
Okay, so in the UK, we don't, it's slightly different from India. We don't generally place. We have placements, we have a lot of internships, but you have to apply for them. That gives your application skills. That's good for your application skills. Some universities will do what they call 1+1s, where you do 1 year study and 1 year internship, but the internship isn't guaranteed. So an internship is generally available, but it's competitive.
Thanks, Donna. Vanessa, if you want to add to it, or Aparna, if you want for anything for Newcastle. Vanessa, over to you. Okay, Aparna?
No, we don't do business. So.
Okay.
Yes, we do offer an MBA program. It's very well regarded. However, it's not for freshers, so you would need to have at least minimum of 3 years of managerial work experience before you can join our MBA. So that means about 5 years of work experience, in which for about 3 years you've had managerial responsibilities, whether for people, products, or processes. So at that age and at that stage in career, people aren't usually looking for an internship. So it's not something we do at our university either for our MBA.
Okay, thanks Aparna for that. We have Tushar with us, but Tushar, we'll quickly come back to you post Glasgow's presentation and we'll take the questions for that. Vanessa, over to you.
Okay, thank you for waiting, and I hope that you've got some good ideas about where to study and things to think about in terms of choosing somewhere to study. You've heard from Newcastle and Southampton, which are both big universities. We'll go through my presentation now. So the first thing to say is we aren't a university. We're not big either. We have around about 2,500 students. So as an art school, this is actually quite a large body of students studying art and design together. As a higher education institution, it is quite a small institution. We're located in Glasgow, which is the biggest city in Scotland. Like Newcastle and Southampton, it's also a port city. It's also was very famous for shipbuilding, like those two cities as well. And also has quite a significant industrial heritage. You look at these buildings, you can see that they've still got black soot on them. This was quite common when there were lots of factories in the city, that the buildings got covered in coal dust. We don't really use coal in the city anymore, but a lot of the buildings are still have that covering on them. What happened then in the 1980s was when a lot of the factories and things closed, it left empty real estate, empty spaces, and artists and designers moved into those spaces. And that created a real transformation of the city from kind of a post-industrial decline into somewhere which is culturally very, very active. It's now known as one of the 3 main centres of contemporary art in Western Europe, along with London and Berlin. And it means that as a student of art and design in the city, you have a very, very accessible contemporary art scene to engage with whilst you're studying. Glasgow is also a UNESCO World City of Music. We have symphony orchestras within the city. We also have a ballet. We also have big stadiums where big bands will play, other large venues for big bands, and lots of smaller venues where there might be 4 people playing at the back of a bar. It also has quite a significant student life outside of university as well. So the art school is ranked 8th in the world in the QS World Ranking for Art and Design in 2021. And we offer programs in a range of areas, so architecture, fine art design, innovation, simulation and visualization. And you can see on this slide here the types of programs that we do. Because we are based in Scotland, these are mostly 4-year honours degrees. So the Scottish degree, you do 3 years for an ordinary degree, an extra year for honours. About 95% of students stay for the 4th year honours degree. And we also do, like Donna explained before, some integrated master's programs. So our B-Eng, M-Eng in product design engineering, you can go straight through to the master's track. Similarly with product design, you can go straight through to the master's track as well. That's actually quite an innovative program in that the students on the master's program, it's called a Masters of European Design, and students will spend the 3rd year and the 4th year of study at a different European art school. So we have partnerships with around about 11 other schools across Europe, and that's from Portugal, Italy, Germany, France, Sweden, and Finland, where you would spend one of those years of study. So that means that students get to learn different European languages. They also get a different European design experience from that as well. So somebody asked a question earlier about how you learn, and one of the biggest differences in terms of art school is how you learn from university. Most of our degree programs, apart from architecture and product design engineering, you won't take an exam in the entire time that you're on your degree. So if you don't like exams, this is kind of one of the places for you. It's very much about you producing individual work. Most of the programs will have like 2 main courses. We've had quite a fight back against modularization at the art school. One of those will be looking at the history and the social context of your practice. So that might be design practice or fine art practice. And the other 4 days a week you will spend in your studio responding to project briefs, using workshops, making work, and really learning through making. That will be supplemented with seminars, group critiques, group tutorials, one-on-one reviews of your work. In the picture at the top here, you can see a crit session going on. This is where a student presents their work to other students who discuss and ask questions about it. We're quite an international art school as well, like the other 2 universities that have presented. There's around about 30% of our students come from out with the UK. And we also send a lot of students abroad as part of their programme of study. So we offer an exchange opportunity to all students in their 3rd year of study. This is mostly for the 1st semester of study. We didn't send any students out last year because of COVID, but we have started to send them out again this year. Fewer than normal, but we're hoping that that will get back to more normality as we come out of COVID. All students will have access to workshops. You get an induction into the workshop, which teaches you how to use the equipment safely, and then you are able to make work in that workshop space. And this is a screen printing workshop that you can see here. We actually have 2 screen printing workshops, one for paper and one for cloth, so different types of work. We also have halls of residence. I won't go into that because I think my colleagues have explained that very well. And most art students at the end of their degree will present their work to the public in a degree show. In 2020, this was all online. You can go and have a look at the work that was presented in both 2020 and 2021 on this link here. 2021, there were also quite a number of in-person events that happened around the city, allowing students to actually engage with the public. And in normal years, there will also be a kind of preview night or preview day where you invite people in from industry. If you're a designer and you would like to work in a particular company, you can invite somebody from that company to come and view your work and discuss it. And quite a lot of students will find job opportunities in that way by presenting their actual portfolio, their actual degree show work to prospective employers. So in terms of the essentials of application, you apply through UCAS. We then ask you to upload a portfolio directly to us. The portfolio is one of the most important parts of your application. And once we review those 2 things, we will then shortlist students and invite them to an interview, which is held on Zoom. Our tuition fees will be published usually for the following year in November. This year they're around about £18,900 a year, and they are fixed for the entire duration of the programme. So what you pay in 1st year will be the same in second year, the same in third year, etc. Scholarships also, you can see up-to-date scholarships on our website as well. I think the best one that we have for undergraduate students is £5,000 a year. So thank you very much for listening. You can go onto our website and register an interest so you can receive regular updates from us. You can also follow us on Instagram, which I'd really recommend you to do. Our students take over Instagram and they post their work there. So you can get to see, as students are going through program, the types of projects and things that they're working on directly from them and that way. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Vanessa. So I understand we are running out of time, but there are really interesting questions coming up. We'll come back to you, Tushar. Vanessa, I would like to ask you, there's a question from one of the students. What are the criteria needed to be met to apply for an undergrad degree in fashion designing? I understand.
So,
yeah.
So the general academic requirements, it doesn't matter what stream you take. You can take commerce, science or arts. It doesn't matter what subjects you study in your 12th or at IB. Students tend to do art because that's how they make their portfolio. They will then need to submit a portfolio with 15 slides showing their ideas, the development work and the finished projects on that as part of the application.
Thanks, Vanessa. So we'll, yes, Tushar, I think you can go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, thanks, Himani. I just have a question. So my son is in class 9th now, and I'm looking forward for his education in UK. So is there any kind of a scholarship that is being provided, and is it based on the marks that he scored in his 10th standard and 12th standard, or is it more competency based where university conduct a test and then they decide on that?
Okay, Donna, if you would like to take up this. I think 9th is too young for them to apply, but yes, if they are planning to study in UK, so your advice on this?
It is difficult. It's a challenge to say what the scholarships will be when your child is in the 12th and applying, and they change. They do change most years slightly. So it could be there were some really good scholarships or higher scholarships in the year that you apply. Generally, they're academic based, so they're based on the final scores. There may be a couple of one-off scholarships at that time that might require an application form or something like that, but generally they are academic based.
Sure.
Thanks,
Donna.
I think we have answered to two questions together because there was another one asking the same decision whether academics is required the sole decision for applying to a university. So thanks for that, Donna. Aparna, if you also can come online. Vanessa, meanwhile, I want to ask what teachers or professors looking at the current pandemic situation, what are teachers and professors preferring? E-learning, face-to-face, blended, and how does it go? If you can, all of three of you can put a clarity related to your respective universities.
Mostly at the moment, it's blended learning. So there will be some elements that are online, particularly in these first couple of months when some students are having difficulty in actually reaching the UK because of the flight schedule availability, etc. Or students who arrive might need to quarantine on arrival, so they'll be able to follow their classes whilst they're doing that. But there will be access into the facilities. And some smaller group-to-group teaching or one-to-one teaching is going to be taken face-to-face. I think we, like a lot of people, will be having the larger lectures are more likely to be given online still. That will obviously vary as we progress in terms of social distancing and safety measures progress on campus. But we are encouraging students to wear masks on campus while they're working about. They're not required to wear them while they're sitting at their desks.
Okay. Donna, over to you for this. Is it blended, face-to-face?
Yeah, I don't. We're the same. We're doing blended learning, large lectures recorded. We're a bit flexible at the start because we understand that maybe some students might need to start their course online due to being in quarantine. But that's it. But the premise is that we will do as much as we can, but safely.
Aparna, your views on this? Aparna, you are on mute.
Yes, sorry, I couldn't find my unmute button. Yes, it's pretty much the same as what Donna and Vanessa have said. It is keeping the public health situation in England in mind. At the end of the day, health and safety is something that is still quite important, which is why it is blended learning at the moment. I'm sure most students and teachers would prefer to go back to a completely in-person form of teaching, but we have to be quite realistic, and that is not the situation at the moment. Especially at the start of the year, we're having all our students arrive this week. Actually, our term is starting, so the first few weeks will be more blended, and then as following government regulations, more in-person teaching as allowed. But there will be opportunities for students to be on campus. We do recommend all our students to arrive as soon as possible so that they can make the most of their university experience. It might be in slots, it might not be everybody in the class together, but we're working as hard as we can to ensure everybody gets that opportunity.
Thanks, Aparna. We have another question. Probably we have a lot of questions. So I'll be again putting the details of all the university reps in the chat box, and you can write directly to them because we are running over time. So we'll take two more questions. Donna, you have answered to Ruth that for medicine you must be 18. However, he wants to confirm if he applies this year, he'll be 18 next year. So can he go for this year intake, or he has to put a gap of 1 year and take in 2022? Donna, you are on mute.
Mine, yeah.
Donna, you are on mute.
He has to be 18 at the start of the course.
Okay.
Yeah, that's by law.
Okay. Aparna, same goes for Newcastle as well?
Absolutely. It's by law. There's no two ways around it. All universities in the UK would require it.
Okay. One last question that asks for if you can apply for double major. So Ketan, if you can just raise your hand and ask, is double major in which subject, which Donna and Aparna both wants to know, so that they can put clarity to your question.
I think it's physics, chemistry, biology, and English.
Yes. Okay. So and I'm just putting the details again and you can write to the universities directly. We had a wonderful session, and I would like to thank again DPS Noida, Delhi Public School Noida, for joining us. Then we had Souvenir School and Vivekanand Mission School. So thank you so much, students. It was a wonderful session, and I hope all of you enjoyed it. And yes, thank you so much. And thanks, Vanessa, Donna, and Aparna.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.